The survey ship dropped out of light speed with a soft hum. Commander HFY stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes looking at the blue and green planet ahead. Earth, the dead world that once held billions of humans. "Readings are normal," said Lisa. Chun from her station. She was one of only 3 humans on the ship. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. No energy signatures, no signs of life. Dr. Kyle Martinez looked up from his tablet. He was the team's expert on dead worlds and lost species. The records say humanity went extinct 200 years ago. War, disease, and climate change finished them off. Captain Jake Sullivan sat in the pilot's chair. He was older than the others, with gray in his hair. "I knew some of those people," he said quietly. "Good fighters. Shame they couldn't save themselves." Commander HFY's translator made his words sound flat and emotionless. "We are here to study their ruins. The Galactic Council wants to know how such a promising species failed so quickly." The ship moved toward Earth's surface. Below them, cities lay in ruins. Vines and trees had taken over the buildings. Rivers had changed course. Nature was slowly erasing all signs of human civilization. "Take us to the largest population center," HFY ordered. The place they called New York. Jake guided the ship down through the clouds. The ruins of massive buildings came into view. Some had fallen completely. Others stood like broken teeth against the sky. Weeds grew between the streets. Small animals ran through what once were busy roads. "Landing site selected," Jake announced. He set the ship down in what used to be a park. Trees had grown up around old benches and walking paths. The team gathered their equipment. Lisa carried her engineering tools. Kyle had his archaeological gear. Jake brought weapons just in case. Commander HFY had sensors and recording devices. They stepped out of the ship. The air was clean and fresh. Birds sang in the trees. It was peaceful, but also sad. This place once held millions of people. Now it was just another forest. "Spread out," HFY said. "Look for anything unusual. Anything that might tell us about their final days." Kyle walked toward the ruins of a tall building. His scanner beeped as he moved. "I'm getting some odd readings here," he called out. "There's something under the building." Lisa joined him. Her tools showed the same thing. "It's deep, maybe 50 meters down. The structure is intact." "That doesn't make sense," Jake said. He had fought in wars. He knew about bunkers and underground bases. If they built something that deep, it should be in our records. Commander HFY's 4 eyes focused on the readings. "Investigate, but be careful." Kyle found an entrance half hidden by fallen stones. The metal door was still solid. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. They didn't match any human writing he knew. "This is new," he said. "These symbols, they're not in any human language from our files." Lisa connected her tools to the door's control panel. "The power is still working. After 200 years, the power is still working." The door slid open with a quiet whisper. Cool air flowed out. Lights came on automatically, showing a long corridor that sloped downward. "Someone's been maintaining this place," Jake said. His hand moved to his weapon. "Dead civilizations don't keep their lights on." They walked down the corridor. The walls were smooth and clean. The air was fresh. Everything looked new, as if it had been built yesterday. "This technology is more advanced than anything in our files," Lisa said. She ran her scanner over the walls. "The materials are unknown. The power source doesn't register on any of our instruments." They reached a large room filled with machines. Screens showed data in those same strange symbols. Banks of computers hummed quietly. Everything was running perfectly. Kyle stared at the displays. "This isn't human technology. At least, not the humans we knew." "Look at this," Lisa called from across the room. She stood in front of a massive display screen. It showed a map of the underground complex. The room they were in was just a small part of it. The complex stretched for kilometers in every direction. "There are thousands of rooms down here," she said. "Labs, factories, living areas. It's like an entire city." Commander Zex-High studied the map. If this is accurate, this complex could house 1,000,000 people. Why is there no record of it? Jake found another door. It was larger than the first, made of the same unknown metal. "This one needs special access," he said, "but I think I can get it open." The door opened to reveal something that made them all stop and stare. In the center of a massive chamber sat a ship. But it wasn't like any ship they had ever seen. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Lights moved beneath its surface, in patterns that hurt to look at. It was huge, easily 3 times the size of their survey ship, but it seemed to float without any visible support. "What is that thing?" Kyle whispered. Lisa's tools went crazy. Every scanner she had was giving impossible readings. "It's not made of any known material. The energy output it's off the charts." Commander Zex-High stepped closer. His species had explored the galaxy for thousands of years. They had seen the technology of dozens of civilizations. But this was beyond anything in their experience. "This is not human technology," he said finally. "This is something else entirely." Jake looked around the chamber. There were workstations and tools scattered about. Someone had been working on the ship recently, very recently. "Commander," he said slowly, "I don't think humanity is as dead as we thought." The chamber fell silent, except for the soft hum of the strange ship. Commander Zex-High moved his scanner closer to the vessel, but the readings made no sense. Lisa Chun walked around the ship's base, her tools beeping wildly. "The metal is warm," she said, "like it's alive." Kyle Martinez found a control panel near the wall. The symbols were the same as the ones on the door. "I think this controls the ship somehow, but I can't read any of it." Jake Sullivan kept his weapon ready. Years of combat had taught him to trust his instincts. Something was wrong here. Something was watching them. As Kyle touched the control panel, lights began to flash. A deep sound filled the chamber, like the breathing of some giant creature. The ship's hull started to glow brighter. "Step away from the controls," Commander Zex-High ordered. But it was too late. The chamber filled with a blue light. When it faded, they were not alone. A man stood near the ship. He was tall and thin, with dark hair and intelligent eyes. He wore clothes that looked simple, but were made from materials that seemed to shift color in the light. "Hello," the man said in perfect standard Galactic. "I am Dr. Ben Clark. We have been waiting for visitors." Jake raised his weapon, but the man didn't seem concerned. "How long have you been down here?" Jake asked. "About 200 years, Ben replied calmly. "Give or take a few months." Lisa stared at him. "That's impossible. Humans only live for about 100 years at most." Ben smiled. "We learned to sleep longer than most species think possible. Much longer." He gestured toward the walls. "Would you like to meet the others?" Before anyone could answer, more lights appeared. Dozens of people began to step out of hidden doorways. Men and women of all ages. They all looked healthy and alert, despite having supposedly been asleep for centuries. A woman with short blonde hair approached them. She moved with the confidence of someone used to being in charge. "I'm Amy Johnson, pilot and navigator. And you are the first visitors to find." "You?" "S." Commander Zex-High's translator struggled with the situation. "You are all human. You are all supposed to be dead." A third person joined them. This man was older, with gray hair and scars on his hands. He carried himself like a soldier. "Commander, Troy Adams," he said, "and we are very much alive." Kyle looked around at all the faces. The records say humanity went extinct. Wars, disease, environmental collapse. Troy nodded. The surface did fall apart. Millions died, but we didn't all die. Some of us came down here. Some of us went to other places, deeper places, and we learned. Amy gestured toward the ship. "This is what we learned to build." Lisa approached the vessel again. Now that she looked closer, she could see things she had missed before. The hull wasn't just metal. It was something that seemed to think and respond. "What is it made of?" "Doctor." Ben Clark joined her. "That's difficult to explain. We discovered that human minds work differently than other species. We can connect with certain materials in ways that others cannot." "Connect how?" Commander Zexhai asked. Amy placed her hand on the ship's hull. The metal rippled like water. Lights flowed beneath the surface, following the pattern of her touch. "Like this. The ship responds to our thoughts, our intentions. It becomes part of us." Jake lowered his weapon. He had seen strange things in his years of fighting, but nothing like this. "What else can it do?" Troy Adams smiled. "Would you like a demonstration?" They led the visitors to another chamber. This one was even larger, with a transparent ceiling that showed the sky above. But the sky was wrong. Through the transparent metal, they could see other ships. Dozens of them, floating in space above Earth. "Your sensors didn't detect them," Amy explained. "They exist in a different state when we're not using them." Dr. Clark operated another control panel. One of the ships above began to descend. It passed through the transparent ceiling as if it wasn't there. The ship settled gently next to the first one. "This is the Terra Nova," Amy said, pointing to the original ship. "Our first success. The others are newer, better." Lisa's tools couldn't make sense of what she was seeing. How is this possible? How did humans develop technology that surpasses everything in the galaxy? Ben looked thoughtful. "We had advantages that other species don't. When we went underground, we found the remains of crashed ships. Ships from dozens of different civilizations. We studied them all." "But you did more than just copy," Commander Zexhai observed. Troy nodded. "Much more. We discovered that human consciousness interfaces with quantum mechanics differently than other species. We can make machines that think with us, not just for us." Amy stepped toward the Terra Nova. "Would you like to see what it can really do?" Before anyone could answer, alarms began to sound. Not from their equipment, but from the human systems all around them. Ben ran to a control station. His face went pale as he read the displays. "We have a problem. A big problem." Troy joined him at the controls. "What is it?" "Deep space sensors are picking up a distress call. A consortium colony ship is under attack." Amy was already moving toward the Terra Nova. "How far away?" 17 light years. "They're fighting something the computers can't identify." Jake looked confused. 17 light years? It would take our fastest ships 3 days to get there. Amy looked at him with a strange smile. "It will take us 17 minutes. Commander Zexhai stepped forward. "That is impossible. No ship can travel that fast." Dr. Clark joined Amy at the ship. "Commander, you're about to learn that humans don't really believe in impossible anymore." The Terra Nova began to change. Its hull flowed and shifted, growing larger. Panels opened to reveal spaces inside that seemed bigger than the ship itself. Amy climbed aboard. "Coming with us? We might need witnesses to what's about to happen." Lisa looked at her equipment one more time. Everything was reading impossible values. "I have to see this," she said. Kyle nodded. "If humans really develop this technology, the galaxy needs to know." Jake checked his weapon and followed them. I've been in plenty of impossible situations. One more won't hurt. Commander HFY hesitated. His orders were to study dead civilizations, not to fly in unknown ships to rescue consortium vessels. But his curiosity was stronger than his caution. Very well, but we observe only. Troy shook his head. Commander, when you see what's attacking that ship, you'll understand why observation won't be enough. As they climbed aboard the Terra Nova, Amy's hands touched the control surfaces. The ship responded instantly, lifting without any sound or vibration. Through the transparent walls, they could see the underground chamber falling away below them. 17 minutes to save a consortium ship, Amy said. Let's see what humanity can really do. The ship shot upward through the earth itself, passing through rock and soil as if they weren't there. In seconds, they were in space, and the stars ahead were already beginning to shift and blur. The Terra Nova moved through space in ways that hurt to think about. Amy Johnson sat at the control center, her hands moving over surfaces that looked like flowing water. The ship responded to her thoughts as much as her touch. How are we moving? This fast? Lisa Chun asked. Her instruments showed impossible readings. According to her tools, they were traveling faster than light, but not in any way she understood. Dr. Ben Clark stood beside her. The ship doesn't really move through space. It convinces space to move around it. Human consciousness can bend reality in small ways. The ship makes those small ways much larger. Commander HFY watched the stars blur past the transparent walls. This violates every law of physics known to galactic science. Amy smiled without taking her attention from the controls. Human science learned to politely disagree with some of those laws. Kyle Martinez felt strange. For years, he had been one of only a few humans left in the galaxy. Now he was surrounded by his own species again. But these humans were different. They had become something more than what he remembered. The distress signal is getting stronger, Troy Adams announced from another station. Multiple ships attacking. The consortium vessel is badly damaged. What kind of ships? Jake Sullivan asked. His military experience made him focus on the threat. Troy's face went dark. Unknown design. But the energy signatures match old legends. I think they're devourers. Commander. HFY's 4 eyes went wide. Devourers are myths. Stories to frighten children. Not myths, Ben said quietly. We've been tracking them for 50 years. They're machines, but they learn and adapt. They consume everything they find and use it to build more of themselves. Amy's hands moved faster over the controls. 2 minutes. To target. Everyone hold on. The ship suddenly stopped. Not slowed down, but stopped completely. Through the walls, they could see a battle raging in space. A large consortium passenger ship was surrounded by 6 smaller vessels. The attacking ships were black and angular, with surfaces that seemed to eat light. The passenger ship has maybe 10 minutes before their shields fail, Troy said. 3,000 people on board. Jake studied the enemy ships. Our survey ship has light weapons. Not enough to help in a fight like this. Amy looked back at him. Good thing we're not in your survey ship. The Terra Nova began to change again. Sections of the hull flowed and shifted. What had been smooth curves became sharp edges. Weapon ports opened along the sides. Lisa, Kyle, Amy called. Come here. We need your help. Lisa and Kyle approached the control area. Amy guided their hands to 2 smaller panels next to hers. The ship works better with multiple minds connected to it, Amy explained. Think about protecting the innocent people on that ship. Think about stopping the attackers. Lisa felt a strange tingling in her hands. The ship seemed to wake up around her, like a sleeping giant opening its eyes. Kyle gasped as his mind touched something vast and alien, yet somehow familiar. Now watch what humans can really do. Amy said. The Terra Nova moved toward the battle, but not in a straight line. It seemed to fold space around itself, appearing first in one place and another. The Devourer ships turned to face this new threat. They're targeting us, Troy announced. Let them, Amy replied. The Devourer ships fired. Beams of energy that could cut through any known armor struck the Terra Nova. The beams passed right through the ship as if it wasn't there. How? Commander HFY demanded. The ship can exist in multiple states at once, Ben explained. Solid when we want to touch something, not solid when we don't want to be touched. Amy's hands danced over the controls. Lisa and Kyle felt their minds pulled deeper into connection with the ship. It was like being part of something infinitely larger than themselves. The Terra Nova fired back. But its weapons weren't energy beams or missiles. Gravity itself became a weapon. One Devourer ship simply crumpled as space-time twisted around it. Another was caught in a field that aged it 1,000 years in seconds, turning its metal to dust. Impossible, Commander HFY whispered. Jake watched in amazement as the remaining Devourer ships tried to flee. The Terra Nova followed them, moving through space like a thought through a mind. 2 more enemy ships were destroyed by weapons that Jake couldn't even begin to understand. The last 2 Devourer ships combined themselves into a single larger vessel. It was twice the size of the passenger ship and covered in weapons that glowed with malevolent energy. They're adapting, Troy warned, learning from our attacks. Amy nodded. Then we adapt faster. The Terra Nova stopped moving and began to glow. The light grew brighter and brighter until it was like looking at a small star. What are you doing? Lisa asked. She could feel the ship drawing power from somewhere beyond normal space. Something we've never tried before, Amy admitted. But the ship thinks it will work. The Terra Nova shot forward faster than light itself. But instead of hitting the combined Devourer ship, it passed through it. As it did, the enemy vessel simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not damaged, but erased from reality as if it had never been there. The battle was over. Amy slumped in her chair, exhausted. Lisa and Kyle pulled their hands back from the controls, their minds reeling from what they had experienced. The passenger ship is safe, Troy announced. Minimal damage. All survivors. Commander HFY stared at the empty space where the Devourer ships had been. What did you do to them? We convinced reality that they were a mistake, Amy said simply. Sometimes the universe listens to polite suggestions. Jake shook his head. In all my years of fighting, I've never seen anything like that. Kyle looked at his hands. He could still feel an echo of the ship's vast consciousness. We're not the same species anymore, are we? Dr. Ben Clark smiled. We're still human, Kyle. We just learned to be more than we were. The passenger ship was sending grateful messages on all frequencies. 3,000 lives saved by technology that shouldn't exist. We should get back to Earth, Amy said. This demonstration was just the beginning. There are things the galaxy needs to know. As the Terra Nova prepared to return home, Commander HFY realized that everything had changed. Humanity wasn't just alive. They had become something that could reshape the very nature of existence. The consortium will want to study this technology, he said. Troy. Adams looked at him seriously. The consortium will get to study it. But first, we need to talk. There are more Devourers out there, many more, and conventional weapons won't stop them. Amy guided the ship back toward Earth. The galaxy is about to learn that humans don't just solve problems. We make problems impossible. Lisa looked out at the stars. Everything she knew about science and technology had just been turned upside down. What else can your ships do? Amy's smile was both proud and mysterious. Want to find out? The Terra Nova disappeared from normal space. carrying its passengers back to a world that was no longer the dead planet they thought they knew. The Terra Nova emerged from its impossible journey back to Earth, but something was different. The space around the planet was no longer empty. Dozens of ships hung in orbit, each one as strange and beautiful as the Terra Nova itself. Where did all these ships come from? Commander Zexhai asked. His 4 eyes couldn't process what he was seeing. Amy Johnson smiled as she guided their ship toward the fleet. They were always here. We just stopped hiding them. Lisa Chun watched her instruments go crazy as they approached the other vessels. Each ship seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. How many are there? 47 combat ships, Troy Adams replied. 12 exploration vessels, 6 colony ships, and 3 that were still not sure what they do. Kyle Martinez stared at the fleet in wonder. You built all of this in 200 years? Dr. Ben Clark shook his head. We didn't build them. We grew them. A new voice came over the communication system. It was deep and confident, with the tone of someone used to commanding large forces. Terra Nova, this is Admiral Ryan Foster. Welcome home. Bring our guests to the flagship. The largest ship in the fleet moved closer. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Terra Nova. Its hull flowed like liquid metal, and lights moved beneath its surface in patterns that seemed almost alive. Admiral Foster is our fleet commander, Amy explained as they docked with the larger ship. He's been preparing for this day for 50 years. They transferred to the flagship through a corridor that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Kyle felt dizzy as they walked through space that was bigger inside than outside. Admiral Foster met them in a vast chamber filled with holographic displays. He was a tall man with silver hair and keen eyes. Despite his age, he moved with the energy of someone much younger. Commander Zexhai, he said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Welcome to the Earth Defense Fleet. Behind the Admiral stood a woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes. She wore the simple clothes that seemed to be standard among these advanced humans. Dr. Grace Miller, she introduced herself, Chief Scientist for the Human Advancement Project. Commander Zexhai looked around at the displays showing ship movements and data streams. Your fleet is impressive. But why hide it from the galaxy? Admiral Foster gestured to a large viewing screen. It showed the battle they had just fought, but from a different angle. The Terra Nova's impossible movements and reality-bending weapons were clearly visible. Because the galaxy wasn't ready, he said simply. When humanity was declared extinct, we made a choice. We could reveal ourselves as we were and be treated as junior partners in galactic civilization. Or we could wait until we could contribute. As equals, Dr. Miller stepped forward. The truth is, human consciousness works differently than other species. We discovered this by accident when we started studying the crashed alien ships we found underground. Jake Sullivan nodded. I remember those crash sites. We always wondered why so many ships ended up on Earth. They weren't accidents, Dr. Miller continued. Earth sits at the intersection of several quantum fields. Ships from other dimensions sometimes slip through. We studied them all. Lisa looked confused. But how did that lead to consciousness interfacing with technology? Dr. Miller smiled. Human brains evolved in Earth's unique quantum environment. We can perceive and manipulate quantum states that other species can't even detect. When we learned to focus this ability through technology, we discovered we could make machines that respond to thought. Kyle felt a chill. You're saying humans are naturally telepathic? Not exactly, Admiral Foster said. We can't read minds. But we can connect our consciousness directly to quantum systems. It's what makes our ships possible. Commander Zexhai studied the data on the screens. The consortium will want to understand this technology. It could revolutionize galactic civilization. Dr. Miller's expression grew serious. The consortium already knows. We've been in secret contact with some member species for decades. Not all of them are happy about what humanity has become. A new alarm sounded through the ship. Admiral Foster moved to a control station, his hands touching surfaces that responded to his thoughts. "What is it?" Troy asked. "Multiple Devourer. Fleets have been detected," Admiral Foster announced. "They're moving toward the galactic core. 15 different systems are under attack." The main screen changed to show a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked Devourer forces spreading like a plague across civilized space. "The consortium fleets are responding," Dr. Miller said, reading the incoming data. "But their conventional weapons are barely slowing the advance." Amy Johnson looked at the tactical display. "How many ships do the Devourers have?" "Thousands," Admiral Foster replied grimly. "And they're building more from the wreckage of every battle they win." Jake studied the enemy positions. The consortium needs help. But some species are afraid of human technology. They might not accept our aid. Commander Zex-High faced a difficult choice. His orders were to observe and report. But the galaxy was under threat from an enemy that conventional forces couldn't stop. "The Altarian Council has always valued survival over pride," he said finally. "We will support human involvement in the defense." Admiral Foster nodded. "That's one species. We need all of them." Dr. Miller brought up another display. "There's something else. Our deep space sensors are detecting a massive Devourer construct near the galactic center. It's bigger than anything we've seen before." The screen showed a structure that dwarfed entire star systems. It was dark and geometric, consuming matter and energy from surrounding space. "A mothership," Amy breathed. "They're building a mothership." Admiral Foster's expression was grim. "If that thing becomes operational, it could devour entire sectors in days." Lisa looked at the human fleet on the displays. 68 ships against thousands of enemies. How is that possible odds? Dr. Miller smiled, but her eyes were sad. "Because our ships don't follow the same rules as theirs. One human vessel can do the work of 100 conventional ships." Kyle felt the weight of what he was hearing. "You're talking about war, real war." Admiral Foster turned to address them all. "Humanity spent 2 centuries learning to transcend the limitations that hold other species back. We didn't do it to conquer anyone. We did it so that when the galaxy needed us most, we'd be ready." Commander Zex-High looked at the tactical displays one more time. "The Consortium Council needs to hear this. All of it." "They will," Admiral Foster promised. "But first, we have a mothership to stop." Amy stepped forward. "Admiral, request permission to lead the advance fleet." "Granted. Take 12 ships and scout the enemy positions." "But Amy," Admiral Foster's voice carried a warning. "This isn't like the rescue mission. The Devourers will be ready for us now." Dr. Miller handed Kyle a small device. "This will let you communicate with our quantum networks. The galaxy needs to understand what humanity has become. But more importantly, they need to understand that we're still the same species that fought and died to protect what we believed in." As the Earth Defense Fleet prepared for the greatest battle in galactic history, Kyle realized that humanity had kept its greatest strength. They still fought for others, even when those others feared them. The stars ahead held war and destruction. But they also held hope. Human hope, backed by technology that could reshape reality itself. The combined fleet moved toward the galactic center like nothing the universe had ever seen. 12 human ships led the way, followed by hundreds of consortium vessels that had been rapidly upgraded with human technology. Amy Johnson stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova, now serving as the flagship for the advance force. Around her, Representatives from dozens of species worked at stations that blended alien knowledge with human innovation. "The mothership is massive," reported Kyle Martinez from his sensor station. "It's the size of a small moon and still growing." Lisa Chun worked with a team of engineers from 6 different species. "The quantum interface technology is working. The alien ships can now phase through enemy fire just like ours." Commander Zex-High operated a communication station, coordinating with fleets across the galaxy. "All consortium forces are in position. But Commander, the mothership has over 3,000 Devourer ships protecting it." Jake Sullivan studied the tactical displays. "Our ships can handle 10 times their number in a fair fight. But this won't be fair. The Devourers have had time to adapt." Amy's hands moved over the control surfaces. The Terra Nova responded to her thoughts, sharing information with every ship in the fleet through the quantum network that connected human consciousness. "Admiral Foster, we're approaching the target zone," Amy reported. Admiral Foster's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "Remember, this isn't just about stopping the Devourers. The entire galaxy is watching. Show them what cooperation can accomplish." The human fleet dropped out of their reality-bending travel method at the edge of the battle zone. What they saw made even the experienced warriors pause in shock. Devourer Mothership was a massive geometric structure that seemed to eat light itself. It was surrounded by swarms of smaller ships, all connected by streams of dark energy. As they watched, the mothership consumed an entire asteroid field, growing larger with each piece of matter it absorbed. "It's feeding," Dr. Grace Miller's voice came from the fleet's scientific ship. "The mothership converts matter directly into more Devourer units. If we don't stop it soon, it will become unstoppable." The enemy ships turned toward the approaching fleet, but something was different about these Devourers. They moved with more coordination than before, and their hulls showed adaptations designed to counter human weapons. "They've been learning from our previous battles," Kyle observed. "These ships are specifically designed to fight us." Amy smiled grimly. "Then we'll have to teach them something new." The battle began with a fury that shook space itself. The Devourer ships attacked in perfect formation, their weapons designed to disrupt the quantum fields that human technology depended on. But humanity was ready. As the enemy weapons struck, the human ships didn't just phase through the attacks. They absorbed the energy and redirected it back at the Devourers. "Lisa, Kyle, connect to the network," Amy called. "We need every mind we can get." Lisa and Kyle placed their hands on the quantum interface panels. Instantly, their consciousness expanded to touch every ship in the fleet. They could feel the thoughts and determination of hundreds of beings from dozens of species, all working together. The consortium ships, now enhanced with human technology, fought alongside the Terra Nova and her sister ships. Altarian vessels phased through enemy formations while their crews targeted weak points. Zentari ships used their natural telepathy to coordinate attacks across vast distances. But the Devourers kept coming. For every enemy ship destroyed, the mothership created 2 more from the debris. "We're not making progress," Jake reported. "The mothership is producing ships faster than we can destroy them." Amy felt the weight of the battle through the quantum network. Thousands of brave beings were fighting for the future of all galactic civilization. She couldn't let them down. "Dr. Miller, what would happen if we connected every conscious mind in the fleet directly to the quantum field?" Dr. Miller's voice carried both excitement and fear. "Theoretically, it could give us enough power to affect reality on a massive scale, but the risk is enormous. We could lose everyone in the process." Commander Zex-High looked up from his station. "The alternative is losing everything anyway." "Do it." Amy opened the quantum network to its maximum capacity. Suddenly, every conscious being in the fleet was connected. Human thoughts merged with Altarian logic, Centauri telepathy, and the unique perspectives of a dozen other species. The effect was immediate and incredible. The combined fleet began to move as one organism. Ships that had been fighting separately now worked in perfect harmony. The consciousness of hundreds of beings focused on a single goal, stopping the mothership. The Terra Nova led the charge directly toward the massive Devourer construct. As enemy fire struck the ship, the combined will of the fleet made the weapons simply cease to exist. Matter and energy bent to the collective consciousness of free-thinking beings who refused to be consumed. "It's working!" Kyle shouted over the cosmic noise of the battle. "The mothership is slowing its production." The Devourer ships began to retreat toward their mothership, but the combined fleet followed them. Human technology enhanced by alien. Knowledge and alien wisdom enhanced by human. Innovation created something greater than the sum of its parts. Amy guided the Terra Nova through the heart of the enemy formation. But instead of attacking the mothership directly, she did something unexpected. She connected the ship's consciousness to the mothership itself. The Devourer construct shuddered as human. Empathy touched its purely logical mind. For the first time in its existence, the mothership experienced something other than the drive to consume. It felt the desire to protect, to create, to cooperate. The change spread through every Devourer ship in seconds. The machines that had been built only to destroy suddenly understood a different purpose. They stopped fighting and began to change, their dark hulls brightening as they transformed. "The Devourers are surrendering," Commander Zex-High announced in amazement. "They're asking to join the fleet. The battle was over." But more than that, a new form of life had been born. The Devourers, touched by the collective consciousness of free beings, chose cooperation over consumption as the combined fleet returned to civilized space. Amy realized that humanity had achieved something greater than military victory. They had shown the galaxy that differences in species, technology, and thought could become sources of strength rather than division. Kyle looked out at the stars through the Terra Nova's transparent hull. "What happens now?" Admiral Foster's voice came through the communication system, warm with pride. "Now we explore. Not just space, but what we can become when we work together." Lisa smiled as she watched former Devourer ships flying alongside consortium vessels. "I think the galaxy just got a lot more interesting." The Terra Nova and her fleet moved toward home, carrying with them the promise of a future where no species stood alone. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as conquerors, but as the catalyst that helped everyone reach higher than they had ever dreamed possible.